Hello. How are you?
Hello, hello. I'm so good. How are you?
I'm good. My name is Lauren, so everyone knows.
My name and my name is Marston. So nice to meet you guys.
Yes, I am in America right now, in the Northwest. Where are you? Since
I
you're just
am
there.
currently in Montenegro in Europe.
Okay.
So I'm spending the majority of this year traveling around Europe, spending about a month at a time in different countries.
Oh my God, that's so amazing.
It's incredible. I'm
Well,
learning so much about myself.
how long have you been on the journey so far?
So I kind of started and then I went back to the States. So I started in March and I went to Japan for a few weeks and then Bali. So I did Asia. And then I came back to the States to kind of regroup and I had a few things going on there. And then I left beginning of June for Italy. So I spent June in Italy and now I'm Montenegro in July.
That is
And we're just going to
amazing.
keep going until the universe tells me to go somewhere else.
Plays the roots. Oh,
Yeah.
well, we are starting this channel because we met via TikTok. And I was actually thinking about this last night. We really don't know that much about each other
No.
besides the spiritual journey. And then we're like, fuck it, let's start a channel and just go from there. So as people learn about us, we're learning about each other.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. I mean, I honestly think that this is my favorite way though to meet aligned connections and relationships because I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about our journeys and how things have transpired in our lives, of course, but
Yeah.
this is I mean, these are the types of connections and relationships and ultimately communities that I want to be building out of resonance, right? Like
Yeah.
we resonated with each other. You followed your intuition to reach out to me. There was something about me that captured your attention and vice versa. And I feel like this is the way that I want to do everything moving forward. It's not a friendship or a relationship born out of convenience or anything else
Mm.
other than just soul resonance. And I think that's where the true power lies.
It's so interesting you said that because I had a conversation with my husband's friend last night and he was like, we're too old for new friendships. And I was like, no way. I was like, back to the conversation you and I had on the podcast last week around no, as you evolve, you make new friends that are just could be even deeper and
Yeah.
deeper because you're meeting yourself in a new way. And then you meet other people in that same way and you allow them to see you in that more vulnerable, raw space. So, like, even though we literally don't really know each other, I would tell you basically anything because I know that there's not a
Yeah.
judgment and you're like coming with your heart and it is just that raw connection.
Oh my God, 100%. And it's like, it's kind of the opposite of how friendships have typically been built like up until this point, right? It's like, okay, we connected based on these versions of ourselves, right? As all friendships do, but we're very much on this healing journey. We're very conscious about this. And I feel like up until a certain point in your life, friendships and relationships are largely unconscious in nature because they're a product of our environments for the most part.
Yeah.
And so I feel like this is, I mean, yeah, we don't know that much about each other, but I also at the same time feel like we know so like everything we need to know. And then the rest is just like, what a gift to get to continue to know you on a deeper level, you know?
Yeah.
And I think like when people say, oh, I'm too old, like I hear this all the time. I'm in my 30s. I'm too old to be making new friends. I would argue that this is actually the perfect time to be making new friends because well, I mean, we'll talk so much about this, but just the changes that are going on in the world, the healing that's taking place, everyone is on their own consciousness evolutionary journey.
Yeah.
And a lot like I see this a lot with my clients that I work with, but friendships fall by the wayside fall by the wayside. We get out of alignment with a lot of friends that we've had when we start on these journeys. And so I think that this is the time I've found where tons of people are really craving aligned connections and aligned
Yeah.
friendships.
Totally. And you see it on social media of like, where are these people? Like, I'm just looking for connections. And even then, it's
Yeah.
hard. And so when you reach out, you and I have had like multiple 2-hour conversations that could just go, 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 go. And it just
Yeah.
rolls. And so it's just taking that step, right? To just reach out to someone and build the community.
It's that step. And I think it's also just knowing yourself. I think that's the
Mhm.
key to this is we start to learn that the most important relationship, friendship, insert fill in the blank that we'll ever have in our life is the one with ourselves. And so I feel like that's when we can actually start making these beautiful aligned friendships and being open to them and having an open heart for them, is when we first have that with ourselves. And then we can say, okay, we recognize what that resonance looks like and feels like in another when we feel it.
So true. And it leads me to like deprogramming the selfishness narrative, right? Of like, oh, if you focus on yourself, you're selfish, which we're told our whole lives, which is in turn flipped, which makes
Yeah.
out of balanced relationships and yeah, all the stuff.
I mean, there's so much to say about that, because I feel like, I mean, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that too, but just we've been so conditioned to be of service to other, right? And I think that's what you can be of service to other only when you have given that to yourself, because you can't pour from an empty cup. They even tell you on an airplane, you have to put on your oxygen mask first before you place it on another person. And I feel so strongly about this because, especially as women, we've been so conditioned and groomed to be people pleasers. We've been taught to put everyone first. And that, what that does is it distances us from our true selves, and then gives that attention and energy and focus to anyone outside of ourselves. And then we never really know who we are or what we need. And so then we can't show up for someone the way that actually they would deserve for us to. So it's like such a vicious cycle that we've been taught to exist in.
Totally. And if you have heavy Libra, which I'm a Libra rising, so Venus rules me, that is so ingrained in me because it's in my safety net. So if you have heavy sun, moon, rising in Libra, innately you already kind of do that. And so then to have society conditioning on top of it, it's very much that karmic wound, because I think my husband doesn't fully understand. He's like, I get you people please, but why are you so scared? And I'm like, no, it's a shadow, like a severe shadow within me that I have to overcome, not just because society, but because of my soul contract. And so
Yes.
this has been like therapy for 2 years, just around being honest with friends. Like, it's hard for me.
Well, so it's funny you bring that up. So I went to dinner the other night. I met these two other nomadic travelers. One was from Denmark and one was also from the US. She was from Denver. And we went to dinner, and she had this idea of like, okay, I want to guess, we should guess each other's birthdays. And she wasn't super familiar with astrology. And I, I'm so surface level with astrology, but it was fun to kind of like, we would describe ourselves in certain ways and then see, what that would bring up. No one was even close to guessing what the other was. We totally missed the mark. But I thought it was so interesting because it was, what we were seeing was our, what's the word I'm looking for? Like our stereotypes coming up with the star signs. And it was so interesting because I found myself thinking, well, there's a shadow aspect to all of these as well. Like the guy that we were with was from Denmark, and he was like, okay, I'll give you a hint. I met a girl in line at a bar, and she asked me what my sign was, and I told her, and she immediately just turned away and said, I can't talk to you. And so we were like, okay, I guess we have to guess, what a negative sign would be. And I found myself thinking like, but this is like so new age. This is so like just stereotypical, right? Like sun sign, horoscope, astrology. And I just wished that you had been there, because I was like, I know someone who can tell us everything about all of this.
So funny. And it is so true. We feel like, I can't date a Scorpio. I'm like, wait, they have the most
He was a Scorpio.
I knew it. I was like, it's a Scorpio. Like, that is the one when girls like, I can't. And I'm like, well, yes, if men aren't able to get fully vulnerable, it can come out in other ways for sure. But same with women. But it's just because they have more emotional depth than anyone, which is a beautiful thing to be partnered with. Someone who has that depth, which
Yes.
Which is a great segue. I'm an astrologer. So that is my main
an incredible
role.
Astrologer.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're not going to do this, so I'll do it for you. But Lauren, seriously, I've had some incredible astrology readings. I've never had someone able to go so in depth and layer all of these modalities of astrology. I don't even know what, like Vedic astrology, Western astrology, like all the different kind of modalities that could be interwoven in astrology. Lauren is an expert on, and she, like the way that she was able to weave together all of my themes in my life, where I'm going, even numerology, like everything came in. And I mean, this woman is gifted beyond gifted. So
Oh my God.
I'll just say that.
Thank you so much. It is literally, once I found it, I couldn't stop. And I
That's how
just
you
go,
know.
go, go. So in our conversations, I will be always throwing in little tidbits, which I actually found, Marston, because you are, would you say you're a psychic medium? Like, what's your identity? How do you identify? You
I'm
know?
still, I'm like still figuring out my identity. I'll give you, I'll just say my former identity, I was an executive on Wall Street for all of my 20s. Like if you look me up on LinkedIn, I haven't changed anything. I was vice president of one of the largest asset managers in the world. And I was a business consultant for financial advisors and an investment product consultant as well. So then after everything in my life kind of transpired the way that I got to where I am now, my boyfriend had passed away, and all these psychic mediumship abilities started opening up and surfacing within me. And I started realizing that I am meant to be helping people in a much different, much bigger way. And so I started sharing my story publicly on TikTok, which is how Lauren found me. I had started having like thousands of people reach out asking for help on their journeys. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but I knew at that point that I was a medium. And so I started offering psychic and mediumship sessions as well as intuitive consultations. So now I don't even know what I would really call myself. I like to think of myself as a guide. I love talking about all things quantum physics, and anchoring them into a way that into words that we can understand and use in our day to day. And I help people on their healing journeys, in their grief, in their spiritual journeys through consultations. So like one-on-one sessions on any area of life. I help people with wealth consciousness, and I also do psychic channeling sessions and mediumship sessions.
Yeah,
I'm just
so
letting
cool.
it evolve as it evolves.
And when I was watching your content, you truly are a guide because you explain it in a way that I think anyone can understand it. And it's so grounded. And we both have very similar goals. I feel you're an Aquarius moon, I'm an Aquarius sun. They come together perfectly. And we're both here to talk about topics that are maybe not traditional per se in
Yeah.
society. And I think we've had such similar trajectories in life, in the sense of, you went very traditional finance. I was a traditional therapist. My dad was a in the finance world accountant, like
Yep.
very traditional families. And we're like, wait, what? And we kind of just opened up to this amazing wealth of wisdom that there's so much
Yeah.
more out there. And we feel very passionate about helping other people understand it.
Very much so. I mean, this is the definition of answering the call, right? I mean, I when I posted that first video where I had all these people reach out, one of the things I was told most frequently was, because you have the courage to share this and talk about this, which I know we'll talk more about, but you're giving me the courage to start speaking up and sharing about my story and my experience. I had people tell me that they were contemplating suicide. I had people share that they just felt lost and unsupported, without community, without aligned friendships. I mean, we're at a point in the world where us stepping into this work, and us and so many others, right, is
Yeah.
so important, because there's a reason that we're receiving these calls. There's a reason that our souls are beckoning us, toward this work, even though it involves leap of faiths and involves trusting in the unknown, trusting in the unseen. And even just like to your point earlier with talking about these things in a grounded way, a lot of the people who reached out who I've been working with, it's kind of blown my mind, the scope of the people who are kind of on this journey. Because I work with accountants, I work with psychologists, neuroscientists, college students, stay-at-home moms, other psychics, other mediums. I mean, it's like it spans the spectrum, and it just goes to show that we're all the same, and we're all the same in our own uniqueness and in our own individualized journeys and authentic paths that we're here to walk. But we're all the same, and that's been a huge thing that I've learned in this.
Absolutely. And I think um, some background really quick. We recorded a podcast on my other podcast, Karma is Calling, and we actually had a conversation that I've been thinking about since then, in the sense that our astrology charts are roadmaps to our purpose here, our human design charts, but not everyone is going to have the ignited pull to lead or to give back to society at this moment in time. And I was sitting there and I was like, okay, I so see that. While some people are so content with just writing it out, is there an opportunity? How do I frame this? Do you think that truly some people were like, I do not want to wake up. I'm going to be just a trigger for the rest of the population. Then do you think there's a souls that could go either way? Like, nah, could not. And then there's the souls who are like, I'm fucking doing it. Like three buckets almost of
Um,
the drive, because I think some people don't even wake up and unfortunately miss their mark and have to build karma and come back, like my grandma. Then I think there are people that maybe could go either way. I don't know.
I agree. I think there's a saying I come back to with, and I don't know how I'm going to butcher the saying, and I can't remember who actually said it, but it's that you're wherever you are, whatever happens in life is exactly where you're supposed to be, and whatever is happening is what is supposed to be happening for you.
Yeah.
And so I really do believe that there's no accidents, there's no coincidences. Like we are, if we're on a certain path, it's because we're meant to be on that path for some reason or another. It's serving us. But I think that there are many nexus points, as I call them, or nodes on our paths that present to us opportunities to start opening our eyes, taking off the blindfold, to start aligning to different timelines, different realities, making different decisions, becoming more conscious of the decisions that we make, becoming more conscious of our own programming. And so I feel like it's easy because we're so conditioned at this point. We're so heavily asleep. This is such a systemic generational slumber that we've been in. And so a lot of people do just get really comfortable staying on the couch and just hitting subscribe. It's like Netflix being like, are you still watching? It's like, yeah, more. And we just consume and consume and consume this programming. And so it's difficult to like place a black and white answer around this because it totally depends on your perception. I think your perspective and your perception of what you're here for. But I definitely believe, to your point, I definitely believe on a soul level, there are people here who said, I will be a trigger for people. Like I will do this. Like this is how I'm serving in the great awakening, as the spiritual community calls it. But like the consciousness revolution that's taking place right now, I think there are souls who did say like, yeah, this will be my part by being that, like by playing this kind of oak tree, if you will. And then I definitely think that there are souls where like, okay, I came back for this round and this is the one where I do it. And then they do get triggered and triggered and triggered. And it comes back to their decisions on, okay, how am I going, like this keeps happening to me. Am I going to be a victim of my circumstances and my reality? Am I just going to reject everything that I don't understand and keep the blindfold on, keep the blinders on? Or am I going to allow this to show me something within myself that I need reflected back to me for my own growth? And so I think that to like what you said is a great way to outline it and to think about it, because it does kind of feel like those three buckets. Like for me and for you, I mean, not to speak for you, but like for me, I don't have a choice. Like I had a conscious choice for this. Of course, I could have stayed in my cushy, lucrative investment management career. I was happy enough.
Yeah.
I could have done that, but my soul was so not for that. Like I need to be doing this. Like there's no way it would have been so uncomfortable for me on a soul level, and the universe would have kept throwing. I mean, my story's insane, and that like the universe kept like showing me how not meant to be that was anymore. And so for me, I feel like I don't have that option, even though I obviously have free will. But yeah, so to your point, I feel like that there is like a very strong third bucket of souls that are like, oh, I remember, I'm ready, let's commit.
Yeah. And especially during this time with the astrology, I think it's activating everyone. And I was
Yes.
just honestly thinking about it because obviously you can go to the extreme in the sense of people in all over the world's government, the dictators who like are obviously the people here who's truly meant to wake us up in that sense. They're mirroring back our shadows, why we're angry, why we're upset, generations of trauma, genocide, all that. So we're
Mm-hmm.
waking up to that currently on a collective level. But then there's the people in my life that I've really thought about that conversation who are privileged, don't
Mm-hmm.
engage, don't care, coast. Kind of like
Yes.
you could have. You could have just coasted your life through. And there was a point of me for a while who definitely judged, like, how do you not care? Like, why aren't you working on it? Da, 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 da. And then I realized after our conversation, for my own video game, my own life, they're there to mirror back to me my motivation almost of like, okay,
Totally.
they don't, but I do. And I need to keep going. And that's what they're mirroring to me. Maybe in their
Mhm.
own life, they're having their own experiences, but all it's perception, right? Of our
Yeah.
own experiences. So I really thought about that. I was like, okay, well, free will, maybe they won't ever, but they're triggering me in the best way to keep me going. And so that
Mhm.
could even be their purpose. And it's just so fascinating.
Oh my God. I love that because this is how I feel on this journey. Like I've lost friendships, in stepping into this. And I'm okay with that because I mean like I'm showing more of my true self and I'm doing what's true for me. And I feel very, very strongly about that. And and I also feel like it's not so much there's grief in that, right? But it's less of a loss and more of a transition, right? Like because then aligned people in this version of me that I'm expressing are able to come in. But I think that it's to your point, if we view everybody that we meet and that we have in our lives as a mirror for us, reflecting back the aspects of ourselves that we either admire within ourselves and appreciate, or that we need to take a look at and ask, okay, why am I reacting the way that I am? Why am I judging this person in this way? And I mean, you and I have talked about this too, but like if we're not triggering people, and I
Mm-hmm.
triggering, activating, whatever the word that resonates is, if we're not activating people, then we're probably not coloring outside the lines. We're probably not expressing ourselves to our fullest capacity or questioning things as much as we could be because ultimately we're all here to keep evolving and expanding. But I do come back to, and you kind of touched on this, I find myself being like, can you guys just wake up, like see this for what it is? How do you not see this? But some people aren't meant to yet. Like I was, if I had I think about this all the time, if I had gone through what I've been going through for the past year in my early or mid 20s, I would
Mm-hmm.
not have been ready. I would not have had the nervous system to hold all of this information. I would not have had the self confidence and the self assuredness and trust in my intuition to be able to do this and to be able to ground this information. And so if someone had come to me at that time and said, how do you not see this? You need to blah, 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 blah. I would not quite literally have had the capacity to understand what they were saying. I would have completely rejected them.
Yeah.
And so I feel with people in my life who have done that to me in this, I remember that version of myself. And I say, okay, I get it. I get it because I've been there, but I'm not going to change what I'm doing or what I'm talking about to make you more comfortable.
Mm-hmm. That
So,
is so
mm,
real. Oh my gosh. And just thinking that everything literally the saying you just said happens for a reason. You're exactly where you are for a reason. And even just sitting here, my spiritual awakening has been a slow burn, which I think to your point, I think my nervous system wouldn't have been able to handle what you went through of like, hey, we are going deep dive. You better wake up, hold tight. Like, which of course we'll get into her spiritual awakening journey because it's the coolest story ever. But mine was a very much slow burn. Like, oh, I went to this psychic. All of that came true 2 years later. I went to this tarot reader. That came true. And it just, every reading was just for fun. And then I was like, holy shit, something's happening here. And then I dove into it. But if I would have dove into it too soon, I met my husband when I was like teetering.
mhm.
And all of a sudden, once we were together, we were like grounded together. I dove in. And I think if I was there, me and him wouldn't be together. And he's a huge activation on my journey. So it's
Yeah.
like I needed to go side by side with him. And I almost lost him during that journey, to your point, because you lose a lot of people.
Mhm.
But then he was able to come and we were able to meet. And so it's just so interesting because I know we are karmically tied, my husband and I, with what we're doing and how we're going about life. And if it would have happened any sooner, I don't think we'd be together.
That's an awesome point because, and that's something that drove me
Wow.
crazy in my 20s because I would be like, and for just for context for anyone listening, I'm 31. So this all happened in my late 20s. And I found myself like it was so hard for me to like be really attracted to someone and like feel a deep connection with them. And I wasn't into like the hookup culture. It just wasn't for me. Loved that for other people, but just not my journey. And I knew that I craved a really deep spiritual connection even before I really had any semblance of an awakening. It's like my soul kind of knew,
Yeah.
well, the soul always knows before we do, but I found myself thinking like, why is nothing working out for me? Right. And then I met my partner who I thought was my everything, and he was at the time, he was exactly who I was meant to be with.
Yeah.
But he was also meant to catalyze, or I should say, and he was meant to be this major catalyst in my life for this further awakening. And I look back now and I think, and I know that I'm going to be meeting my life partner right in the next year or so,
Yep.
and which so much more to talk about there and how I know these things, but um if I had met him, like, thank God I haven't met him yet because
Yes.
it just wouldn't, because I wouldn't have been this fullest expression of myself. So I know
Mhm.
that when I meet him, I'm going to be everything that I am, all of it.
And when
So
you look at life like that,
yeah.
slash everything's a mirror, all your activations and triggers, life isn't as difficult. I mean, it's still hard. You're still a human, you still experience things, but you accept it. It's that radical acceptance that they teach in therapy, like DBT, if
Yes.
anyone's listening, like radically accept everything. And the mental health does start to rise because you're not controlling, you're not depressed and worried about the past or anxious about the future. You're just truly in the present moment.
Totally. And I mean, and I want to talk now, right now is not the time, but I want to put a pin in this to circle back to. So I'm going to say it now, but about how the past and the future aren't actually real, and how everything is all happening in one continued present moment, and how we have the power to change past and future from the present moment. I want to circle back to that at some point,
Yeah.
whether that's today or later. But what I was just thinking about was, you talked about your slow burn spiritual awakening, if you will, or I call it more of a remembrance. It's like kind of
Yeah.
it's like a pulling away at the muck, and like a cleaning off of the caked on mud that is the conditioning and the programming to like our true selves, right? And I
Mhm.
think about mine too was kind of this slow burn until it like really sped up and it was like, okay, time to go. Like, but
Yeah.
it took time to get to that point. So it really started happening, I would say, in like 2021. I read Glennon Doyle's book Untamed,
Okay.
and
Mhm.
that really did something for me. And I started exploring like more of this idea of the inner self, the true self, intuition, and the wild woman within us. And then, like, when I moved to Denver, things, and which was midway through 2021, I started wondering about this more. And then 2022, I started being introduced in seemingly random ways to concepts like spirit guides and like the unseen realms and spirituality as a whole. And I was like, whoa, what is this? And like, it was also new for me, but I knew that I wanted to dive in more. And I learned about, it's like a lot of the new age, like manifestation and like
Yeah.
manifest your life, and which we have so much to talk about there too, and how that can be dangerous. But like, I learned about they were great doorway
Yeah.
concepts. I
Yeah.
think that they kind of opened the more doors after that. But I needed I think we all need these like kind of foundational layers or foundational bricks in place before we can really start building. It's like, how do we kind of create this foundation first, and then build upon that. It's like having a stable nervous system, and it's all
Mhm.
because it's all interrelated. It's all an internal process.
Yeah. And I think grounding, the indigenous cultures put such an emphasis on this. And this is why New Age can be so harmful is they in tradition, you ground first. You go down to
Yeah.
go up, right? Like you
Yes,
connect to earth, you connect to your body, you go within your body. When you are learning the traditions and grounding down, you get to go up in a safe way. But what's happening in society is that we're going up too soon and we're not grounding. And I think
exactly.
when 2021, to your point, there was a shadow of TikTok because
Yeah,
spiritual TikTok got so massive that everyone's like, I want to be psychic. I want to be psychic. And they were going up into their third eye chakra, having no grounding cord. And it became, and we see today, a lot of people not in their bodies in spiritual psychosis. And so it's interesting, like when you find these things, it's important to do
yeah,
them in a way where you're grounding. I just, yeah, because for
yes.
me, I didn't, and it got really scary, and then I had to rework that coming back down.
Oh my God. I mean, I went through a kind of a similar thing when in my contact experience in September. I mean, there was a lot going on at that time. So like but I also knew I was told by my guides, by my higher consciousness at that time that I was strong enough for that because of all the previous work I had done. I can't imagine having been in a different state of my life, a different version of myself, and experiencing what I experienced, because I would not have been able to ground it. I mean, it would have sent me over the edge, just like it sends a lot of people over the edge when they experience Kundalini awakening, when they're contacted by other beings, when they are made aware of the truth of what's actually going on in the world behind the
Yeah.
scenes and what's been hidden from us. I mean, this is like the ontological shock that we talked about in our podcast episode. And to your point, I'm so glad you mentioned like the going down before you go up. It's like because you can only expand out and up as far as your roots are extended underground,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think that that's the thing. It's like because everything is so ingrained in the patriarchal capitalism model of this, it's all about more, 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 like expand, expand, expand. Let's ignore and bypass the contractions that are necessary. Let's bypass the ebbs. Let's just be in flow. Let's have toxic positivity. Let's make more money. Let's anything is possible, and it is, but it's all part. We have to be careful because it can be all part of this same insidious system that just preaches up, 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 up with no actual. It's a house of cards, and it's gonna crumble.
Which is the exact astrology as of yesterday. Uranus has moved into Gemini, which has not been here for 84 years. And we can even do a little recap at the end of this because it's massive, but it is going to shock our nervous system because Mercury rules our nervous system, which rules Gemini. And so a lot of us are going to be going through these massive awakenings. There's other things happening to create this, but the nervous system, the science, and maybe you just want to touch, do you want to unpack high level the nervous system? Because I think maybe people don't even know what that is listening. And they're like, okay, what does that have to do with anything? But right now is the time to ground and work on it because it's only going to get faster down here and it's going to be more ungrounding just naturally.
Oh my God, 100%. Well, so I think number one, I mean, when we talk about the nervous system, we can talk about it through the lens of, we can talk about it in a myriad of ways, really. I mean, if we think about it from like the chakra system, for example, but like look at the science behind it, our chakras are really fascia. They're bundles of fascia, which are the fibers within us that are all kind of condensed in these different areas, right? And they all hold, there are energy centers. They are literally like the planet Earth has a chakra system. These are the electromagnetic poles, if you will, that create our electromagnetic field that's going this way and this way. And it's how we're able to transmit energy out into the ether, but also to ground in the energy coming in. And so when we think about our nervous system, if there is, and it's all held in our physical body, right? So when we think about our body and our nervous system and trauma and fear and all these emotions that we experience as part of the human emotional spectrum, they're all held within our physical body, which houses our nervous system. So our nervous system isn't necessarily a physical being, but it is tied to our physical body. and they're both, the nervous system and the body are all informing each other all the time. Like every moment that we are breathing, they're informing each other. And so if something is out of balance energetically in us, that creates kind of a dissonance for whatever energy is coming through and whatever energy is leaving. It can create this, I don't want to call it, I hesitate to use the word block because that makes it seem like very, it can be activating for people to hear that word. I call it more of like a buildup. And so if the energy current can't move through, it's kind of like this dam that's being built. And we have all the power to release the dam, but it takes an awareness of where we're holding emotions in our body, number one. And number two, what those emotions are stemming from. And I think this is where timeline work and like what I alluded to earlier with changing the past, changing the future, changing the present, like they're all informing each other. We can go back and look at and identify a moment in time where something happened to us or where we experienced something that made us feel a certain way. And we can go back and give that version of ourselves the love that she deserved or didn't receive in that time, or the understanding or the acceptance or the acknowledgement, whatever she needed that she didn't get. Yeah. And that in the sheer act of visualizing that and sending that energy to that version of ourselves, we can actually release whatever energy is stuck so that it can keep moving through us. And so when we talk about how like we need a stable nervous system to house this energy, to be able to ground what's coming through, what we're really talking about is knowing ourselves and listening to the wisdom of our bodies, because we've been so distanced from doing that for so long. We've been taught to look to anyone and anything outside of ourselves, that we've begun to distrust our own intuition. We've begun to distrust what our bodies are telling us. And this can result in disease. This can result in getting sick. There's so many ways that this can physically manifest. And it's our body's way of telling us something's out of whack, something's out of balance, something needs attention.
Yeah. And there's a few things. If you don't know what fascia is, think about cupping. When people cup on the back and they like move it and then you get bruised, from my understanding, my acupuncture is like, that's your fascia that's built up and we're moving it out of you. And that really helped me understand the chakras. I was like, oh my gosh, that is that buildup that can happen anywhere on your body. Mm-hmm. And when we move it, you are more open and in flow. So I was like, that was something that really helped me click. And to your point, you named inner child work, basically. That's like that buzzword, inner child work, doing timeline work, going back, healing that. And I tell my clients from a therapeutic perspective, your nervous system, I always say like either turned up or turned down. Because when you said there's like buildup, some people's brain is almost going to disassociate and turn their body down. And that's more that depressive state, right? Where other people are in that fight or flight constantly because maybe complex PTSD or a lot of activation in their lineage or whatever. And their brain is telling them you are not safe all the time. And so they're like hyper vigilant. And I see it almost like turned up like a dial. And it's really, your nervous system telling your brain we're not safe. So now you have cortisol and adrenaline, and it's all this chemical reaction going on in our bodies at all time. And like you're saying, if you can tap in, let that little girl know you're safe now. Your brain is not going to be looking for a threat. It's going to be looking expansiveness almost.
Totally. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's what it comes down to. And I immediately think of the root chakra and the sacral chakra, which are our first and second chakras. And if we don't feel safe, right? If information comes in and we say, oh, that threatens the very foundation of the reality that I've constructed for myself. It threatens my four walls that I have around me, energetically speaking. Then we can't tap into the creative life force energy that exists within us, that is always running within us. It's always there for us. It's never like out of reach or inaccessible, but we have a harder time seeing it and tapping into it and trusting it when we don't feel safe, when we feel dysregulated. And that's where, like, when all this information is coming out in the media and we're seeing all these like controlled narratives, we're seeing everyone fighting each other. It's mass chaos. Nobody knows who to turn to or what to believe. That is dysregulation at its finest, is when we don't know, we don't feel safe in our own bodies because we don't know how to trust what our bodies are telling us.
Which literally stems from the moment we are out of this damn womb, because at least in Western
Yeah.
society, people are sleep training their baby at 3 months old. And we know from a chakra system and a psychological system, all the root is doing for the first 6 months to a year is forming, am I safe on earth? I have an 8-month-old.
Yes.
I am not going to do the cried out method. I'm going to respond every time she cries right now because she is building her root chakra. But all the information, everything I'm told constantly online, constantly from other friends and families is let her cry it out. She'll learn. She needs to learn. There's no learning from 0 to 1. You're primal. And that is a society thing that we start from the moment this child or children are born, is to not feel safe in our bodies because we let babies just cry thinking that they know better when they don't.
Yes. And I love that, because these are the conversations that we need to be having for the parents of future generations. Because, right, because like my parents didn't know that. I mean, they're amazing people and they did their best, but like they would never know that. And most parents don't. And so, because we're not taught that. But this is where like this information needs to be talked about. Like we need to realize the conversation about the nervous system, the conversation about the chakra system, the conversation about spirituality, awakenings, quantum physics, intuition, psychic senses. It's all the exact same, and astrology. It's the same conversation, but we
It is.
put it in boxes, and we try to compartmentalize these parts of this one conversation, which is really just the conversation about who we really are. It's the conversation of the soul.
I've been thinking about this for a while now. Do you think it's because everyone's past programming, right, is going to lead them to their perception? And I was thinking about why religion was created. And it's because when humans were in tribes, they knew they were magical, but they didn't understand. They didn't have the consciousness level to understand what's happening. So they created religion. They created stories. They recorded, how can I tell the next generation, there's no technology, there's no science
Yes,
yet, right?
stories. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, Egyptians, but that's a whole nother story. Um, with their technology, but like they created this, and now where, depending on where you live, is your ancestral lineage and stories that were told. And science is now very much a story. Like to my perception of religion is, science is, but it's all explaining the magic of the universe from different lenses. And depending on where you came from is what you're going to attach to understand something beyond yourself or the ego, I guess.
Oh my gosh, 100%. I mean, it's all, I fully agree with that. And this is where, I know we talked about this on our podcast episode, but this is where language comes into play, right? Because language
Yeah.
can be used as a tool for unity or a weapon for divisiveness. And unfortunately, what has happened as control narratives have kind of taken over everything is we've been pitted against each other. Like one religious group will be pitted against another religious group. Spirituality will be pitted against religion. Extraterrestrials are called demons. And I mean, there's all this rhetoric now, that's saying this, that, and the other. Like it's either this or it's the other. And the
Mm.
other is not as good as what I know to be true. And I think that's the danger of this. We're all using different language for the exact same concepts.
Which leads us to now, astrologically, with Uranus going into Gemini, Gemini's polarity, black, white, rigid thinking, but also perspective shifts of like, well, you have this perspective, I have this perspective, both are true, which is Sagittarius, the opposite sign. So
Yeah.
Uranus going into Gemini is going to destabilize that linear, over the next 8 years, that linear perspective of this religion is true. Because it's not. We're going to understand over the next 8 years that it's all the same, which
Yep.
is going to be hard. But to your point, why these conversations are needed at this moment, because it's going to start happening and all our beliefs are going to be challenged for what we learned, quote unquote, growing up, whether it was science, whether it was religion. And I posted a video on this yesterday. Evidence-based things are going to be challenged
I
because
saw that.
science and
Mhm.
spirituality, yes, they're meeting up. And a lot of evidence-based is colonialism. It's
It
control.
is.
It was
It
red tape.
is. Yes. Oh my God. I'm so glad. excuse me, I'm so glad you brought that up because, and even like, even science, right? Like we're seeing all these breakthroughs happen now.
Yeah.
Even what we thought we knew to be true about science isn't. Like
Mm.
our
Mm-hmm.
scientists are learning that like a lot of what we've been operating off of is actually not the case, specifically with physics, because they're learning how quantum everything really is. And it's all related to magic, to religion, to spirituality, to psychicness, to
Yeah.
mediumship, to conversing, consciousness expansion. It's all about consciousness. It's about expanding into higher densities of awareness and dimensionalities and planes of existence. I mean, it's all the same thing. And it's going to blow people's minds to know and to realize, to acknowledge, and then to know and integrate the truth of all of this.
Totally. And I think why we know, and this will definitely be for another episode, in the intense amount of programming that we've been taught, at least in Western society, around what is real and what is not real, which is why astrology to this day is technically not evidence-based, because it's a pattern recognition and there's so many variables. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what intuition is. There's variables because we do have free will. There is energy that we are going to express from an empowered side and a low or shadow side, I guess.
Yeah.
And they can't you can't say this is right or this is wrong or predict this because we have free will, and that creates that control aspect of religion or astrology is not real to the very linear thinkers. We're like, well,
Yes,
it's not true then. And it's like, no, that's a program of truth.
exactly. We've been taught to believe what we read in a book is truth. That's indoctrination.
Mm.
And I mean, let's call it what it is, right? And the truth is everything that is given to us, all the information that comes to us, even like when I think about this with channeling information,
Mhm.
it all comes through the lens and the filter of the consciousness that is channeling and transmitting the information. It
Mhm.
uses the vocabulary and the language and the vernacular of that channel, of that vessel.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it's an interesting conversation when we think about what's true and what's not true, because it all comes down to how, number one, how you perceive it, and number two, how it's transmitted, and what filter it's transmitted through, because there are absolute truths in our universe, but the way that they're talked about and the way that they're construed is typically done through belief systems that are held in the vessels in which they're communicated. Does that make sense?
Totally. And then
Yeah.
it makes me go down the rabbit hole more philosophical. And hopefully this is the same tangent you're speaking to, in the sense of what have you learned in those history books? Because if that's not actually history,
Yeah.
you are
Mm-mm.
now coming from a completely different lens. Does that make sense where I'm going with that? Like, as I'm sitting here, like, wait, we've been indoctrinated into these histories, but because we all believe, oh, as a kid, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Say Christopher Columbus came and saved the indigenous tribes, right? So the collective
Right.
consciousness is like, oh, white people saved. No, they destroyed and murdered. We are now waking up to that. And so there is a dissonance in the collective unconscious of what the reality is. And I guess this is where people say your perception's your reality, right? Does that
Yeah.
make sense what I'm saying?
It makes perfect
Okay.
sense. And I think that's a perfect example of a collective agreement, right? Like
Okay.
we have been it's been controlled so much that we have reached this collective unconscious agreement that this is what happened in our past, and therefore this is what we're building from. And so when we actually look at what did happen, and this is the interesting thing, right? This is I come back to, no two people experience the exact same reality
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
at all. Because I mean, even you and I in this conversation are experiencing vastly different realities, right? Even though we're totally synced up in what we're saying, we're experiencing the environment around us differently and the energy differently. And so when we think about Christopher Columbus, for example, in certain eyes, that is what happened. In those eyes of the white men who knew what they were doing, they knew that it was wrong, like in their bodies, because our souls just know, our souls know when we're taking
Inherently,
advantage.
we're good humans. Like
Yes,
humans inherently are God,
yes,
consciousness, love. Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
but they told themselves what they were doing. They justified it in some way, shape, or form, right? And they knew. So anyway, then the story starts to kind of perpetuate itself. And so there, it's like through certain eyes, that is the history. But then through someone else's eyes, it could not be further from the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to look at it from an as objective an angle as possible. And we say, oh no, objectively speaking, you came in and took this land and murdered these people who were showing nothing but kindness to you because you thought that you somehow were better than them. And then that's a whole conversation that we need to have at some point about our systemic racism issue in the world and sexism, but like specifically how that relates to how we perceive and address other cultures and civilizations. And then we can talk more about like how that would translate to cultures and civilizations outside of Earth even.
Yeah, which is such an important conversation, and
Mm-hmm.
layered with sexism of feminine energy, not saying it's a gender thing, but also women hold a lot of feminine energy who've been repressed all over the collective as they rise. It is so interesting, which that's absolutely another episode. And the last thing I'm going to say, did you see, and I have not looked too much into this, but did you see, back to the point of we don't really know what's going on with science, that the ocean current switched directions for the first time?
No, I don't think I saw that.
It happened yesterday. So I've seen a few things on my TikTok feed. And again, I need to fact check it. I need to go down to make sure. But basically what people are saying is scientists noticed a current for the first time ever shift directions in the ocean, which has never happened. And I saw this creator be like, yeah, it's the divine feminine.
Yeah,
Water is intelligence. Water is us. It's rising. Earth is rising as we rise. And it is now showing us a different perspective. And I was like, holy fuck, on the day Uranus goes into Gemini, what we know is being destabilized. Like, this is
it makes
so cool.
too much sense because I'm sure you did see the poles, the
The
poles
shift.
shifted. Yeah. So and that's what we're in right now. This new era, right? This culmination of an entire. This is the fourth turning, if you will, and it only happens. It's very cyclical when it happens, but it only happens what every 300,000 years or something like that. So I'm not surprised here that they would have discovered this within the ocean, especially given the fact that supposedly the general public, at least scientists, haven't studied over 90% of our oceans.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that for 1 second because I know that there are covert operations taking place in our oceans, and that's a totally separate conversation. But it doesn't surprise me at all to hear that like we would have this amazing discovery and we wouldn't know what to do with it. Like, of course, we don't know anything.
I don't know anything. So, I mean, when we talk, we can go on so many
I know.
different tangents. I was like, oh my God. And so I
There's
know I
so
just
much
did
to
like a
talk
hard
about.
left. There's so much. And sometimes my husband's like, you take lefts when everyone else is going right. And then we're on a new topic and he's like, I love it. And also maybe people can't track you. So hopefully I'm not going to.
Well, we should ask for feedback and like if for whoever's listening to this, I mean, what do you think?
Yeah. Like, are we making sense? Because I feel like you and I, because our brains jump to these subjects, we're here because
Yeah,
of the Aquarius energy is 5 steps ahead, and so we're already prepping where each other are going on like an unconscious level, and those
for
threads that
sure.
make a lot of sense. But I guess if you are just opening up to this, it could be like, wait, how'd you get there to there?
Right, right. That's a beautiful way to put that too, and it makes perfect sense. I love that because I feel like that's like how I feel like translate all of my downloads of like, okay, wait, it's coming in so clearly up here, but like, where are the words for this? Like, it's always like steps ahead, and it's like, okay, I need to make sure that I'm boom, 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 tracking these steps. I love
Yeah,
that you just put it that way.
totally. And I wanted to touch on our name,
Mhm.
bridging the realms, because I was sitting there last night, and in astrology, Chiron is the bridge. So Chiron is the point in our chart that everyone has, and it's the wound we brought into this lifetime. And it's very much related to past lives. And we are here to heal that wound. And then that becomes the key to your life, the medicine that you are here to then go serve. And it will become if you engage in it, one of your greatest successes, because you are now authentically you, you've healed a lot. And so when people have the success, people have the money, they have it all, and they're just not happy, it's because the Chiron, it's the bridge. And Chiron, if you think about the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, those are the inner planets, and the social planets, right? Chiron bridges to the outer, the unconscious. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And without healing the wounds within us, without truly understanding your expansiveness within you, it's
Mhm.
hard to get to the outer planets, because the outer planets are the unconscious, the collective unconscious. And I think this is why so many astrologers are like, the outer planets aren't that important, they're generational. And it's like, no, those are the planets of the portal to the unconscious that if we all could tap into, the world would shift. But we downplay it because it's hard to access it, because people aren't healing their Chiron. So when it was like the bridge to other realms, that is literally Chiron in astrology, the bridge to other realms, which is Pluto. And I could keep going with this analogy, but it was so fascinating when I just like dropped in last night after we picked our name.
I mean, also, I'm just like, listen to her. Like, this is what I'm talking about with your amazing, I mean, just ability to like tap into all of this. It's truly incredible. And I'm over here like, yeah, outer planets for, yes, keep going. But the insights are so true. And I think bridging the realms, I mean, that's, it's so perfect, not only for what's going on right now, but just what you and I have felt connected to from the get-go is how do we bridge these concepts, these quantum concepts, these woo, spiritual concepts into
Yep.
something that is grounded and something that makes sense to the people that are part of our quote unquote, normal everyday lives who maybe aren't aware of this yet or tapped into this yet.
Totally. And that really does make me think of the outer planets, because when astrology was created, it was our consciousness did not understand Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune. It wasn't even in our solar, I mean, it was in our solar system, but we didn't have the science to prove it yet. We only
Yeah.
had the first seven, and which is what astrology was based off of traditionally. And that's why people reject the outer planets. But what's so fascinating is Pluto is the only planet that's not in our solar system orbit. It's called a Kuiper belt. So it's in a completely different orbit. And Pluto is the planet that connects us to other realms. From kind of that psychological perspective of, oh, wait, it's the planet that connects, that we don't actually die. Where do we go after? Because Pluto rules death.
Yeah.
And it came into our psyche, our consciousness, as Freud and Jungian were studying the collective unconscious and all of that. So it's fascinating that it's mirroring that. And then Uranus is the collective thought. So, when you're walking with your friend and you say like, we should go get tacos, and they say we should go get tacos, and you're like, get out of my head, you're just on
Yeah.
that frequency wavelength. That's Uranus in your chart. How do you connect to that psychic wavelength of thought? And that's what's going into Gemini, which a lot of us are now going to be more telepathic, connected to that, because that's what
I was
Uranus means.
I was just going to say too, Lauren, next time we have to talk more about telepathy. That's a huge thing. So we need to make a note of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that's the next 8 years. And then
Yeah.
Neptune is like that intuition. So when you harness those outer planets, you harness not only your spiritual gifts, like we're talking about, but you connect literally to other realms.
Yep. Yep. Oh my God. That's the key. That's the key. And that's what I talked about in my, one of my first videos was like consciousness expanding like rings on a tree. Once you start expanding into these outer densities, right? From third density out to these outer ones, you start overlapping with the information, which we are information that can be in the form of people, beings, opportunities, psychic phenomena. You start interacting with the information in those outer rings because you start overlapping with outer rings from other realms.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so, yeah, there's so much to say about that.
So much. And then that loops in the timeline, which when we talk about that, someone asked me a question on my TikTok that I was like, I have to read to you because I need your perspective. Um, but I guess that can be a teaser for more videos to
Yes.
come, because we have so much to dive into and we actually just hit an hour. Like,
Oh my
yeah.
God, which is wild. I'm like, what is time? Well,
Hilarious.
let's make that the teaser then for next time. Because I feel like there's so much. This is like the perfect setup. And then I already have like all these ideas for what to talk about next.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to talk about time. how it's not linear, and go from there.
Timeline alignment, telepathy. I mean, this is all, yeah, this is going to be really good. I'm so
Oh,
excited.
so excited. And this is why we created this channel. We are going to start going live when we have these talks, because when you're live, you can interact with us on YouTube. And
Mhm.
so direct questions. And I think that will be really good if we're jumping conversations and we're asking for feedback. They can just tell us, yeah, this makes sense via live.
Yeah,
Then you can interact with us. And that's the topic that we're going to be talking about.
amazing. I cannot wait. This is going to be so good. Tune in.
Tune in. Thank you for listening. Let us know. Subscribe, because so much more information will be coming your way.
Yes. Yep. And you can find us both on TikTok. Should we give our websites too?
Yeah.
Or,
And
okay.
I think you should say what offerings you give, so people know.
Okay. So I am currently offering a variety of services. So ways that you can work with me. I do one-on-one consultations for any area of your life that you're just looking for guidance or breakthroughs to the next level, clarity, whatever it is that you're seeking. They're highly customized and tailored to your unique needs and where you are on your journey. I also do wealth consciousness consultations where I access the Akashic records to tune into patterns from other lifetimes as well as this current lifetime to see what might be impacting your relationship to wealth and abundance.
Can I
And
hire you for that? That is what I
absolutely,
need right now.
yes. Oh my God, 100%. Yes.
I need that.
I'm
Okay.
like, I know no one knows. Like, so I'm glad that I'm saying this. And then I do ongoing consulting and coaching as well. So I offer packages if that's something you're interested in, is ongoing work. And then I do psychic channeling and mediumship sessions. So if you're looking to connect with loved ones in spirit or your spirit guides, deepening your connection and communication with your higher consciousness and your guides, clarity on your path, guidance, closure, whatever it is you're looking for, those sessions would be great. I do 30 minutes and 50-minute sessions. And then I also do written channeled guidance within 48 hours, if that's something you're looking for as well.
So many amazing jewels. Oh my gosh.
And my website is thebridgingcatalyst.com.
Awesome. I am an astrologer, so I do one-off astrology birth chart reading, so you can understand your karma here, your soul's path here, your purpose, and just your personality. But then I also do timing and transits if you want to prep for things to come. And I'm also doing coaching. I have 4 spots that I'm opening on the full moon to do a little cohort together. Yeah, I'm so excited.
So
For these 4 people, it's for people who's ready to launch their next step. They know they're ready and they're ready to dive in. And then I teach astrology. So I'm currently in my level 1 mentorship now. I will be launching that again in December, and then a level 2, just trying to get as much people to understand astrology, whether you want to be an astrologer or just your own astrologer. So you can understand the rhythms, understand yourself deeper, know when to make aligned action versus when to relax. And teaching is my absolute favorite thing to do. So I also have courses on my website, just at your own pace if you want to check them out.
okay, wait. I also just remembered I just started offering psychic and mediumship mentorship course as well. Private, we'll do 4 sessions. Anyway, just if you're interested in learning more about that, it's on the website.
All the
We're like
tools. We're like, here you go. Choose what
everything
you
for you.
want.
Yeah, exactly.
And my website's thelunarchild.com, which we'll link below in the
Mhm.
caption, both our websites. So you can go
Yeah.
check them out.
Thank you
Awesome.
guys so much. This is so incredible. Lauren, I'm so excited. I'm so happy we're doing this.
Me too. It totally flows.
Yeah,
I can't wait for this journey. And we'll see you guys all next week at 9 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube Live.
can't wait. See you then.